The U.S. attorney scandal has generated some pretty good TV comedy lately, having to do mostly with Monica+Goodling, who's the Department of Justice employee who is refusing to testify before Congress without Fifth Amendment protection because of the role she's played in the whole Gonzales scandal. Recently, Bill Maher and Jon Stewart have gotten a lot of mileage out of the fact that Monica+Goodling went to Regent University, which of course, as we all know now, spun off from the Christian Broadcasting Network University that Pat Robertson started. Both Maher and Stewart went on at some length about the fact that officially Regent University isn't really very highly ranked. In fact, it's a fourth-tier school, and there are only 4 tiers. Both Maher and Stewart missed the point. I would go further and say that their attitude toward these schools, toward Monica+Goodling, toward the whole phenomenon of far-right Christian activism, is profoundly dangerous. Because if we laugh this stuff off, it's kind of like laughing off the existence of the Cosa Nostra, or more appropriately, of fascism. Let's take a look at these schools. Regent University, true, a 4th-tier school. And it's not the only one that's had an awful lot of people serving in the Bush administration. There's a school called Patrick+Henry College in Purcellsville, Virginia, which started up just after Bush was selected president. This is a school primarily for homeschool kids, kids whose parents didn't want them to be contaminated by secular influences, kids whose families want them to devote their lives not just to Christianity, not just to that faith, but specifically devote their lives to the imposition of what they call biblical law on the United States of America. Now, Maher particularly, but Stewart as well, suggested that these are schools that were set up for people who couldn't get in anywhere else. Maher makes the point that the people who go to Regent couldn't get into Phoenix University, the mail-order school. Well, the fact of the matter is that the people who go to places like Regent and Patrick+Henry and Ave Maria Law School, which I talked about recently, the students who go to these schools are not interested and don't apply to places like Yale and Harvard. They don't want to go to schools that will expose them to too much secular contamination. They're part of a movement to completely alter the nature of the United States of America. They're part of a movement whose aim is to educate a whole generation of young people and prepare them to take over influential positions in government and business. That's what they're after. That's what they want. So they are not slackers. They are commandos. The motto of Regent University is Christian leadership to change the world. And what this entails, for example, is getting kids ready to work in strategic intelligence. You can major in strategic intelligence at Patrick+Henry and graduate with a security clearance. This means that you can go to work in the intelligence establishment. This means that you can go to work inside the military. This means that you can help to fight Bush's war on terror as a real insider, as a policymaker. And the most frightening thing about this is that your motivation is not geopolitical, it's not patriotic, it's theocratic. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about a theocratic movement whose commandos get prepared at schools like these. So how can we say that these are 4th-tier institutions? Let's think about this for a minute. 4th-tier institutions. Would it be possible for Regent University, for Patrick+Henry College and these other schools, would it be possible for them to be measured in traditional ways? These are people who are young earth creationists. They believe the universe is 6,000 years old, and they don't want to be exposed to anyone who tells them differently, right? These are people who are homeschooled to believe that Galileo did the right thing when he recanted. He did the right thing to recant. Now, how's a school like that going to teach physics? How's a school like that going to teach history? They believe and they argue that the separation of church and state is a myth, and that this was a country established deliberately by the founders as a Christian nation. This is false. These schools specialize in a particular kind of mythology, a theocratic mythology. They don't care about what we deem to be rational considerations, evidence, and so on, argumentation. They believe that the truth has been revealed, and the purpose of these schools is both to strengthen one's belief in that truth and to prepare one to enter the secular world and take it over. Now, considering what the Bush administration has accomplished since it took over 7 years ago, considering how much power they have accrued, considering the fact that they all but control the Supreme Court, considering the fact that countless U.S. attorneys come out of that movement, this is very, very frightening. Which brings me to my next point. A lot of people hear little bits about this kind of thing and they say to themselves, all right, now that Bill Maher and Jon Stewart are making fun of this stuff and it's getting some publicity, in 2008 we'll throw the bums out, we'll sweep the place clean, we're going to get rid of these clowns, these hayseeds, as Maher called them. Well, I'll tell you something. The whole purpose of the infiltration of our government by the graduates of these schools, the whole purpose of so many of these kids becoming interns in the White House and the State Department and other places like that, the whole purpose of the renovation of the Justice Department and the destruction of its Civil Rights Division, the whole purpose of all of this is to make it impossible for any election to get rid of these people. Now let's get real for a moment. The Bush administration shouldn't be in power, right? They were never elected in the first place. There is abundant evidence that they ought not to have taken the Senate in 2002. At least 3 races, possibly 4, are highly suspicious, all won by Christianists. The 2004 re-election was stolen, and in 2006, the Democrats, they did fine. They should have done a lot better because they got a lot more votes than they think. The whole purpose of this thing is to disable, is to subvert American democracy, because American democracy is one of the finest fruits of the Enlightenment, and this movement is profoundly opposed to the Enlightenment. It is apocalyptic. Its aim is to hasten the day when Jesus comes back down to earth. That means that they don't care about global warming. See, that means they don't care about the possibility of a nuclear conflagration in the Middle East. They welcome this kind of thing. This is perverse. This is medieval. This is subversive. And what we need to do is stop laughing, because it's not funny. It's serious. Our way of life, our system, our freedoms are under sustained attack by a movement that knows exactly what it's doing and believes ardently in what it's doing, and whose members are not imbeciles. So what we have to do, basically, is start to purge this government of a subversive movement infinitely more dangerous than the communists ever were, because these people have real power, and they will not stop, they will not give up until they believe they have won.